Hi guys, I'm Peggy here at From the Witch's Garden, trying to grow a cut flower garden on my allotment in Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan. Thanks for checking out my channel. Okay, the rain has been stotting off the ground every day this week, so I've not been down at the garden and I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but the garden needed a good drink, so that's great. We're due a wee bit of sunshine and cloudiness today and then rain for the rest of the week. God, I sound like a weather forecast, don't I? But it means that today's really the only day I can probably come down and see what's going on in the garden. So it's been a while since I showed you guys around, so let's have a look. It's looking a lot different now. We're coming to the end of the season. Things are starting to die off and die back. Just looking around the other gardens here, you can see that everyone else, it's my wee stand thing, everyone else is starting to get ready for winter as well. Not very much left next door. Looks like he's put some cabbages or something in. But everyone's started to get everything harvested, get everything in and prepare for the winter. So the garden is starting to look a little bit sad, a little bit done, but let's go for a wee tour. Okay, so if you watched my video about me cutting down my sunflowers, you'll know that I left this down here for the bugs, for the bees, for the birds, for things to hibernate in, and to act as kind of a mulch. I wasn't sure how well that would work. You can see lots of things crawling around in it though. There's lots of ants and beetles, a wee moth over there. So hopefully it's doing its purpose. It's all already, even with all the rain, I mean it's still very wet, but you can see it's rotting down nicely. There are still quite a few weeds coming through though, and I don't want those to go into the next door allotment, so I might do a wee bit of weeding today. But that's looking great. You can see things are already making nests and laying stuff in all these holes, which is exactly what I wanted. Okay, so in last week's video I cut back all of my cosmos and tried to rescue what was here, and that looks to have worked actually. This guy's falling through the netting a bit, let's help him out. But you can see I'm starting to get more flowers. Even some of these purple ones, my double click cranberry, are starting to bloom again as well. Still quite small, still on very weak stems, but you know, it's flowers where I thought I wouldn't be getting any. So yay! I have dahlia. So lots of my dahlia have started to come up now. I've got these beautiful pinky ones, got some nice dark purple ones there, that got a red one at the back, which it's a different plant. So this front one is purple and then the middle one is a more red, and then I've got some yellow ones at the back. Now the ones at the back I grew from seed, so I didn't actually know what to expect from them, but they're a nice little pop of yellow. I'm not gonna lie, these you know, you see the pictures of the nice big dahlia and you're thinking, yeah, dinner plate dahlia, they're gonna be good. I mean, these are closer to lollipop dahlia, maybe let's call them that. Bonsai Dahlia, I mean, everything's smaller in Japan, right? But I'm guessing this is just because they went in so late and had to deal with the hot weather, and it's just made them come out smaller. But they're coming, so that's good. I still have one, is that one? 1, 2, that's the same one there, I think that's the same one there. 3, I still have 3 that are still just in leaf. They haven't started budding yet, which is good. I'm hoping that you know, we're nowhere near our first frost here. It's definitely colder, but I mean, by cold it's like 20 degrees. I think it went down to 16 during the week, so we're still a long way off from our first frost. So hopefully these will just keep going, and the ones that are still not budding will have time to, and that's great. I'm just gonna have really late flowers, but that's nice, I guess. But I finally have some dahlia. I then planted some more dahlia seed just with what I had left over at the back, and quite a lot of the seeds came up, but then they seem to have died off in just the craziness of lots and lots of rain, roasting, toasting hot, lots and lots of rain. So I think I've only actually got 2 of those that might actually flower for me. But we'll go and have a look up the rest of this row because it's a bit of a disaster, isn't it? Yeah, let's have a look. Okay, so behind my dahlia in this row I had my verbascum, which didn't do anything. Now, I think this was because I, again, put it in too late, but also because I made the rookie error of putting my sunflower in the wrong place, and so this has been completely shaded out for the whole summer. and they've just not grown because they've been in complete shade, which is not what they like. I'm in mosquito zone right now. But they're still really green and leafy and continuing to spread out. So I'm wondering if I leave them, whether or not they might actually do something in the autumn now that it's cooled down a bit and that they're getting a lot more light. So I'm loath to say that nothing happened. I'm going to wait and see if something happens with these. There's a lot of weeds in here though, so I need to go through and do my weeding today. But I'm kind of hoping that these might still come up. I don't know. I'm going to leave them and see anyway. Okay, so then you can see my 2 dahlia that have come through from my seedlings, which look like one of them's budding already. This one's a bit slower. And then at the front, these are all of my Californian poppies. Now again, these guys didn't do anything. I think I had them in way too late in the season and they didn't like the heat. I had 1 or 2 blooms come up and fall off the same day as they were blooming. But again, these are still looking kind of big and bushy and healthy, and they're actually growing more this week than they have done all summer. So again, I'm going to leave them and see. Now I've kind of got a feeling that these might stay this way over winter because it's so mild in the winter here, and they might come up again in the spring. But as I said in my last video, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to get this plot again. I might just drop my phone. Oops. I might get this plot again, I might not, and I have to have it cleared out by the end of February if I don't get the same plot again. So I don't know what I'm going to do with these, I really don't, but for now I'm going to leave them and just see what happens. You know, I might get some late poppies. Do poppies come again? I don't think they usually do. But I'm loath to pull them out when they're looking nice and healthy like this, so it's a wait and see. So this whole row, you can see, with the exception of the dahlia at the end, very little worked in this row, and I think that is almost entirely because of where I put my sunflower. They were just completely in the shade all summer, and that stopped them growing at all. So lesson learned, but I'm just going to leave them all in and see what happens. Okay, so next I have this Gomphrena, and this has done so much better than I thought it would. In one of my early videos, I was quite surprised that I was getting white ones because I thought they were all supposed to be purple, and I was wondering why these had turned white. I checked my packet again and I was wrong. They were actually always a mixed one. I just didn't check that well. This has done so well, and it's got really, really, really big. It has completely covered up 1, 2, 3. I had another 3 rows in here, and it's completely taken up all of the space that I'd left for another 3 rows of other things. So now I know that this stuff needs a lot of space to fill out, because it's killed off my Chinese Aster, which I had in the next row. And I spoke about a bit before in one of my other videos, is that my Chinese Aster just hadn't come on because it had been shaded out by this stuff. This stuff is doing really, really, really well, and I'm not sure what to think of it. You know, when you see pictures of this as a cut flower, it doesn't look like this. You know, if you take, there we go, let's take this one. Ooh. Okay, so that's not a very good example, but if you take this one, you only ever see this ball, which means to get that, you've got to sit and pull off all of the leaves when you're conditioning your flower. And that's what you see it look like. So when it gets put into bunches of flowers or bouquets or is dried, it's always dried like this. And it takes a really long time to pull off all of the leaves because it has a lot of leaves on it, and it breaks really easily. And not only do the stems break really easily, but when you're pulling off the smaller leaves, the head bits break off really easily as well. So, you know, I do like the look of this flower. It's just a lot of work that I didn't think it was going to be. Saying that, it does dry beautifully, and it's one of the few ones that keeps this really vibrant colour when it dries. So it looks nice on wreaths, just to add a pop of colour in a dried wreath that you don't then have to throw out. So I am liking this. It's just a lot more work than I expected. And it might just be that I'm picking it a little bit too early. I have been picking it for a long time, and it just keeps coming and keeps coming, you know, cut and come again, definitely. You know, if you look at some of these ones that have come a bit further, you know, I could get that much stem length on it, and then I've only got the 2 leaves to pick off, which seems much more manageable. And you get that nice little pom-pom look to it. It's not a great stem length for putting in a bouquet. In my little single stem vases that I tend to use, that's fine. And if I was making wreaths, that would be fine. So maybe it's just that I need to let them go a bit further before I'm picking them, and that will kind of cut down on some of the work for me. But I am finding that it takes a long time to strip these, and you end up losing a lot because they break really easily. But I do like it. It's cute. Yeah. Okay, so in behind my Gomphrena, there is more stuff, it's just it didn't grow. The next one that actually did anything is this, which is my verbena, however you want to say it. This stuff was one of the earliest ones to bloom, and it's still going. You know, it's starting to look a bit ratty now. A lot of the flowers are going, but a lot of that is because I've stopped cutting it. I haven't been using it as much. Now, again, if I was making a big bouquet or a big bunch, these are great. They've got such long stems, and they're really solid, sturdy stems. I really like them. The flowers keep for quite a long time. They don't droop. These were really, really good. I like them a lot. I had way more than I needed. I could never have used this much. Half of what I put in would have been fine. The only thing was that once they were in the vase, they did drop quite a lot. Sometimes they drop pollen, sometimes they drop the actual flowers quite quickly. And when they drop the flowers, they go from this beautiful kind of purple that you can see here to a kind of brown. So I mean, you still get the kind of pom-pomness, but it's nowhere near as nice. And you can see all the pollen coming off of that one. So again, this was just one that took a little bit of work after it was in the vase, but it had a great vase life. So I like this. And if I'd kept cutting this, this would just come and come and come and come. A real good workhorse. I liked it a lot. Yeah, but because I didn't have lots of flowers and I didn't have big full bouquets, I felt like this didn't look as good as it could have looked in what I was making. And quite often it just kind of looked, I don't know, a bit stark maybe. But if I'd had lots, and this could have been a really nice air element to add to it. But overall, I really like this stuff. Thank you. You were good. You were good. And it made the garden look really pretty. If you're growing this not as a cut flower, I would really put this in your garden. It looks great. It was very easy to keep. It flowered for such a long time. The bees love it. It would be a really, really nice one to have in a kind of cottage garden. And although it is big and tall, the stems are quite thin, really sturdy, but very thin, so it doesn't look like a big clump. It does move nicely in the wind and look beautiful. So this is one I would love to have in a garden if I had a garden big enough to put plants like this in it. But yeah, I can't recommend this stuff enough. It's lovely. Doesn't smell though. No scent. Okay, so then behind that is my zinnia. If you watch a few videos back, I did a video about what went wrong with my zinnia. You'll know that I wasn't overly happy with them. But I might have spoken a wee bit too soon in that. Now, my peaches and cream ones, I still don't like. None of them have come out doubles. They're all singles. And the ones that have come, I'm just not loving the colours. They're a bit wishy-washy. I mean, I don't know if this is supposed to be pink or cream. This one, this one actually has a caterpillar having a nap in it. Look at that. Sorry for disrupting you, mate. But yeah, the colours were just a bit wishy-washy. They looked washed out. They never looked like they were supposed to be a nice peach colour or apricot-y colour. They just looked sun-bleached and a bit dirty, I guess. So I was never really happy with these ones. Put this guy back. Hang on, mate. But my green ones, I got some really nice ones of these in the end. And I really like them. Again, really long stems on them. The flowers last for a long time, and I'm actually quite liking how these ones dry. They don't drop any pollen. I really like them. So although the peaches and cream, I'm still going to say, no, that's not what I was hoping for. These green ones, I'm really happy with. And the peaches and cream have started to die back now a little bit. But these ones are still going strong. And what, that's our second week in October we're in now. So yeah, I'm really happy with these. And I'm glad about that because although the peaches and cream weren't what I wanted, I've listened to some of the feedback I've got from you guys, thanks for that, on Instagram and on here. And I have a few more new varieties that I'm going to try out next year. And I'm hoping that they'll be as good as these ones. And if I get them in the ground sooner, I'm hoping I'll get them a bit bigger and a bit healthier earlier on. Oh wow, it's like 10 butterflies all flying around here. Beautiful. So I am going to try zinnia again next year, just not the peaches and cream one, and see how they go. I will be doing a video about my next year's garden plan though, and I'll go through all the different types that I'm going to be growing. I'm just waiting for the last seeds to arrive before I can do that. So that was this row, what worked, but what didn't work. There are quite a few blank spots in here, so let's have a look at that. Okay, so I've just had to climb over all the Gomphrena because I still have the netting down here for the Dahlia coming through. So first off, one of the reasons things here might have failed is because everything's just too close together. You know, my Gomphrena was a lot bigger than I thought, as was my verbena, and so they've ended up just covering up everything in the middle, which has got shaded out. But if we dig down... Okay, so first if we dig through the Gomphrena, you can see that is meant to be a Chinese Aster. I've talked about this quite a lot now. I'm really upset that these got completely shaded out. I think I cut one tiny one. There's another dead one there. One tiny one I managed to get cut and used in a wee arrangement, but it was tiny and nothing like it was supposed to actually look like, just because it had been completely shaded out. Sorry, I have a cold today, and so I'm a bit sniffly. I'm really upset about these ones because these were one of the favourite ones from the packet, looking at them, that I had seen, and so I really wanted to have these in the garden. I have actually bought 3 different types of these, I think 3 different, possibly more, of these to try again next year because they're just beautiful. I really want them to work, and now I know that I just need to put them at the end of the row where they're going to get lots and lots of space to grow and lots of sunlight to grow as well. So I am going to try these again because they're beautiful and I really want them, and I'm very upset that they didn't work this year. So Chinese Aster, bit of a fail, but because of the Gomphrena. So try again. Okay, so according to my signs, next should be the Ergoneum, which is like the little kind of thistly looking things. These went in as seedlings and they weren't great to start with, but I don't think any of them have actually come through. I seem to have 2 of these. I don't know if this is actually it, and it's slowly going to come through again in as a autumn crop, or if that's something else completely different. I'm loath to think it's weeds though, just because of the way it's growing perfectly in the row. So, you know, again, I might get something with this. I might try and cut this Gomphrena right back and dry it all out now that it's doing really well, and see if I can get this going again. Next to that is some scabious, of which there is none. Nothing grew there at all. And then this was supposed to be an echinacea, and again, I think I've just got 1, which is being completely shaded out by everything else. So this verbena is gone. It's gone too far. I think I'm going to cut it back. I'm not really using it anymore. So I'm going to cut that back and see if that lets these plants do anything new, and see if I can get them coming through. But all in all, that was a complete failure. Yeah, they did not work. Okay, on the other side of the verbena is where I had all of my Nigella. I had 2 types of Nigella, and it just was a bit weird. It grew, but it was really spindly, and it didn't grow upright. It grew kind of crawling along the floor. And then when the flowers came, they were teeny tiny and not much use to me because the stems were kind of droopy and not strong and not upright. They were all twisty. So this definitely did not work, but it did still put out lots of seed pods. And last week, you can see there's not much left in the row now, because last week I came and cut it all down because it was getting dried like this. And I'm going to use that in some of my kind of autumn and Christmassy kind of wreaths, because I like the seed pod anyway. But I was really surprised that this didn't work, because I had this growing as a weed in my garden at home. It just self-seeded and started growing, and it was really tall. But this stuff just did not seem to like it here. So I'm not quite sure why that happened. I do like the seed heads, but I'm not going to put it in the garden next year, simply because I don't have the space to put it in. I want to try lots of new stuff next year. So again, this should have been one that was quite easy to grow, and I think it was just because of the placement in the garden. It didn't like it at all. So I had 2 of them. I had the Jekyll and Miss Jekyll, and the Black Caraway is what this one should have been. And they both just didn't work out at all. And then next to that, this one is my Calendula, and it hasn't really done anything either, and I think that's partly, again, because it's getting shaded out. If I stand up now, you can see I'm between the zinnia, which are nice and tall, and the verbena, and so this stuff just got shaded out as well. It has grown a little bit, and again, maybe if the stuff starts to die back, it might come through more in the autumn. I did get a few flowers off of this front one in spring, and I was really surprised that it's quite sticky. I found that the stems are kind of fuzzy, but they were definitely a sticky flower and a sticky leaf, which I'm a little bit upset about. I keep saying that I started late in the season last year, and I did, but it meant that when I was ordering my seeds for stuff, most people already had their things in the ground, and there were very few strange shadows on my face from the netting. There were very few seeds left to buy. You know, it was past the time that you should have been sowing them and putting them out, so I was really restricted in what seeds were actually still available. So this year I went out and bought all my seeds as early as I could. As soon as I was seeing them available, I decided what I was going to put in, and I started buying them. Now that was good because I got all the seeds that I wanted, but bad because I didn't know at that point what was going to grow in the garden and what wasn't. And so I really like the look of the this is really close to my eye. I really like the look of the calendula on the packet. It's kind of similar to the Chinese Aster. I was finding that, you know, lots of the little fingery petals that look really beautiful. And so I've ordered quite a few different types of the calendula to try again next year. And if I'd grown these ones first and seen just how sticky they were, I don't think I would have done that. So if any of you are growing calendula, can you tell me, is that normal? Are they always that sticky? Or was it just this one? I mean, now touching them, they seem okay. But when the flowers were coming off them, I definitely had a kind of very sappy feel to them. So again, I don't know if these ones are going to flower again now that it's cooled off, if I cut some of these zinnia back and give them a bit more space. I do have two plants still in here that look like they might do something. So I might get an autumn flowering off of them, not entirely sure. And I'm going to put more of them in the garden next year. But if I'd ordered my seeds later, I wouldn't have planted these again. Yeah, but we'll wait and see next year. Maybe it was just a one-off, but wait and see next year what I get off of the different calendula that I'm going to grow. So that was this row. Yeah, cosmos, zinnia, calendula, Nigella, verbena, scabious, echinacea, and what's at the end? Oh, Chinese Aster and Gomphrena. Mixed bag of what worked and what didn't. Okay, hang in there, we're on the last row. So this row was supposed to be mostly my filler row. I had ponytails, I had some bunny tails, I had echinacea, no I didn't, I had achillea, and what else did I put in here? 2 types of achillea, ponytails, bunny tails, and my Docus dara. And from really early on, this stuff just didn't do anything. It didn't like it at all. I mean, you can see I've kind of got little bits of my ponytails here. These are supposed to be massively tall. 2 of them are still tufts of grass. They're not dead, they're just not doing anything. And pretty much everything else failed and died. So I had replanted my zinnia in here to see if I could get nicer looking peaches and cream now that it had cooled down a bit. These are coming through. I need to get some netting on to support them. Not as many as first germinated, but some. Only one of the green ones come through though, bizarrely. So, you know, I'm getting something out of this row, but realistically this was like half a row in my garden that was just bare and didn't work, and that was heartbreaking every time I came down to know that there was so much space just not being used. Saying that, my Docus dara, which is this one, you know, again, it's kind of filling out more now. It's getting a lot gankier now, so I'm not going to pull it up or anything. I'm just going to leave it and see if that's actually going to do anything. Again, if I end up with a garden again, I'm going to leave all of these in. I'll just work my plan around what's actually here and see if, given a second season, it's going to come up any better. So I'm going to leave that one in. But yeah, basically this half of the garden was pretty much a failure. Rubbish. The second part of this row though, you've seen a lot of, because this is where my amaranth is growing, and I cannot complain about this stuff. It's so big and so strong. You know, I see this all the time in what the flower farmers are making and in the beautiful bouquets, and it looks lovely, and I really wanted to grow it. And I do love the look of it, but I'm having problems using it. And I think this is a me problem, not an amaranth problem. I'm finding that it very quickly droops. I'm not able to style it nicely. I think I've been cutting it too late, especially the stuff at the back here. So I've kind of got this fountainy type one, and then I've got the pointy one here at the back. And especially that pointy one, you know, when I'm seeing people use it in bouquets, it's kind of a small little puff that kind of blends in nicely. And I've not been cutting mine until it's like 1.5 feet long. So obviously that's quite hard to style. So I think part of that is me cutting it too late. One of the reasons I was cutting it too late is because of all the things I could see, nothing ever said, is this a cut and come again, or is this a one and done? And so I was kind of loath to cut it when it was really small if I thought, well, is that all I'm going to get from it? I now know it's kind of cut and come again. You're not going to get the big ones. So these had beautiful big falling kind of cascades coming down on the first cut. And when you can see when I've cut this one. And after that, you are still getting shoots, but they're obviously a lot smaller. You know, some of these are getting longer now. I guess if you leave them, you're going to get a few wee bits on that. These ones at the bottom as well are maybe a bit more usable. But I was just loath to cut them at first because I didn't know how much I would get off them. And now I know that you do get more than one cut from these. It's just that after the first big cut, they're going to be smaller ones. They're not going to be as big and showy as the first cut. That's for this kind of cascading one. The other ones at the back, I'll switch my camera around. So this is the other amaranth, and I'm saying I'm cutting it too late. I mean, oh crap. No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I mean, that's a beast. You know, to be able to use that in the kind of size of things I'm using, you know, if you're making a huge big showpiece, that's great. But for me, that's going to be too much. But then you can see these smaller side ones are, for what I need, much more usable. They are on a much shorter stem, unless you take the whole lot of them. But you know, you can see where my first cut here was. And if I leave these a bit longer, I'm sure they are going to get a bit bigger. You can see the same here. I've cut this one here, and then I'm starting to get more little side shoots out there. So that's good to know, that, you know, you can use it more than once. It isn't just a one cut and done. It's just getting attacked by it. It's just that the secondary cuts are going to be a lot smaller. Now, if I had cut the big ones when they weren't as big, would that have put more energy into the side shoots and they would get better? Yeah, probably. And that's something to learn again for other years. I'm so distracted. I'm sorry. There are butterflies and dragonflies absolutely everywhere. They're beautiful. This is actually my favourite season in Japan, if it would just stop raining. We've had so much more rain than we usually have at this time of year, but this is the few weeks of the Japanese weather I usually adore, because you get the last of the bugs, you get all the butterflies and the dragonflies and everything coming through without the horrible, horrible oppressive heat. But like I say, it's just so much rain this year, it's crazy. But yeah, so I'm going to put some amaranth in the garden next year. I'm going to go with Coral Fountain, I think is the one I got, which is another one of the cascading ones. I don't know, I'm going to check what seeds are available. I would quite like some of the hot biscuits, just because it seems to be a really popular one that a lot of the flower farmers are growing, so I want to try it, see if I like it. It's one like this, so maybe if I cut that better next year, then I'll be able to use it a bit more, but I'm still undecided about whether to do that or not. As I say, my problem with amaranth isn't the plant itself. It's great. It's exceeded my expectations and I still really like it. It's a me problem, and to fix that I have actually just signed up for an online floristry course. So hopefully I can do more than just shove these in a vase, which is what I've been doing, and try and do something a little bit fancier and just learn how to treat my plants better. There's no point in growing plants if I can't then look after them once they're cut to make them into something nice. So I have signed up for a floristry course and I will try my best to get better. But that's, oh no, the last thing, there was ammi in front of my amaranth, and I grew ammi magus. Yeah. I liked it. I liked the look of it in bouquets. I like using it, but it wasn't a cut and come again. It was a once and done. You kind of got a few side shoots off of each piece, but they were very small, and they drop a lot of pollen, a lot more than I expected. So I think in my Instagram there's a picture of a pollen drop from one of the sunflower arrangements that I made, and it had ammi in it, and the ammi was dropping just as much pollen as the sunflowers were. The other thing is, if I was growing it again, which I'm not going to do next year again, I'm trying to change things up and try new stuff, but if I was going to grow it again, I know that I planted 2 rows of it, and that was nowhere near enough. I would plant, maybe if I wanted to use it regularly in bouquets, because it is something that goes nicely with everything. It adds both the disc element and the air element in a lot of the bouquets, and it adds movement to things. It's a really nice one to have. It fills out a bouquet nicely as well, because they get quite big. So it does add volume to it without adding weight, which is nice. If I was going to grow it again, I would give it at least a third of one of my rows. I would need so much more of it. It's one of the few ones where I've said I need more of that. So I'm not going to grow it again next year, but if I was, I'd be putting a lot more in. And again, it didn't do as well because it ended up getting shaded out by the ammi, just because I hadn't given it enough space. It got shaded out by the amaranth. But I did like it, it just drops a lot of pollen. So it's not going in again next year. But that's it for this week, our wee tour. I'm going to harvest what's here. I'm going to do a lot of weeding. And then things are starting to slow down, I guess, because everything's here. It's just kind of using up what's here. I guess I'll see if any of these ones that failed during the summertime are actually going to come up and give me an autumn crop, which would be absolutely lovely. And then I guess I put my seed bubble up in the garden last week. So it's time to start getting new seeds in the ground and preparing for next year. So if you've made it this far, thanks for following along. You can check out what I do with this stuff when I pick it over on my Instagram, which is From the Witch's Garden. And if you want to follow along and see what happens with this garden, if I get it back again, and what we're going to do for next year, then remember to hit the subscribe button. And I will see you next week. Bye.